Bonjour et bienvenue. Today we are looking at Unit 10, which introduces us to the closed mixed vowel U, represented in the IPA between the brackets as a lowercase y. Why is this a closed mixed vowel? Well, it's mixed because you are mixing a position for your tongue as the primary articulator and your lips as the secondary articulator. And when you mix those things together, you get a mixed vowel. So what position is our tongue in? That's a great question. It is going to be in the E position. So if you remember, how do we form the E? Well, it's important to remember the soft palate is raised just as it is in the bright Italian lit A. The tip of the tongue is still going to be resting behind the lower front teeth. And the root of the tongue is going to remain neutral, as are the muscles in the back of the neck. E. So far, so good. Now we're going to add that to rounded lips. So we're going to add an oo on our lips and an E on the tongue. And we're going to make sure to keep this all relaxed and neutral so we don't get an E, but instead we get an Your turn. One more time. You got it? All right, some things to avoid. Well, one thing I already mentioned is the over-tensing of extra muscles that we don't need. So make sure this stays nice and loose and neutral. And another thing to avoid, what about diphthongization? This is a big thing for American English speakers, possibly English speakers from the entire world. So if your articulators are not in position, do, foo, then we get diphthongs. However, if your articulators are accurately placed and positioned before the start of the vowel, then all you have to do is just let the air through and use your best resonating space. All right, let's see here. What words do we have that could illustrate this point? All right, so if you look on page 119, there are 3 columns of words, and we're going to go down each column one by one. I'll say them. You will repeat after me. Try as I might, I can't hear you, so I'll have to trust you. Du, sur, plus, une, tu, l'une, nul, fut, pur, eu, pu, vu. How are we doing so far? All right. What about column number 2? Jusqu'à, perdu, lumière, azur, suprême, cruel, musique, nature, brune, perdu, nocturne, brûle. Hanging in there? All right, let's see what this third column has for us. Third in French is, of course, troisième. Fut, dur, Jésus, brume, flûte, surtout, verdure, salut, venue, mur, l'univers, murmure. All right, not so bad. Now, let's talk about how we identify this vowel within the written French. As of course you already know, French can be very tricky with lots of different vowel combinations, but this one is an easy one because all we have is a single U or a single U with a circumflex over it. And that's going to be our mixed vowel U. Now, you have to watch out though, because if that single U is attached to a G, it's not exactly single. It is married to that G because it is helping to maintain the quality of that G, which is represented in the IPA brackets as a G, as the lowercase written G. And the same can be said of the Q. Just like in English, Q's need U's in most words, unless you're playing Scrabble, and then there are all those special Q without U words. But this isn't a Scrabble class, this is a diction course. So the words that we will be using here, a Q and a U, the U is also going to be married to that Q to keep that K sound. And indeed, in French, it is a K sound. Now, there's another thing to watch out for, and that is the inflections of the French verb avoir, which means to have. And like helper verbs in many of the Latin languages, this little thing is going to occur all over the language. So you're going to see little tiny words that have E-U. U. They're always going to be pronounced that way. E-U-S, E-U-T. Ure, us, ut, ume, ue. Those are different inflections of that verb. However, and this is not in your book, but if it is an E, a U, and an X, that means something different. So then you have to watch out, because then we have a different protocol. All right, so on the classwork number 10 page, there are more words, and I would love to go through those words with you. With you. All right, here we go. Vague, lumière, notonnier, s'allume, saurait, futile, surprise, gauche, pourvu, guerrier, exquise, perdu. Now, sometimes you can have the U, it is a single U, even though right next to it is an E, because that ES is an ending that's going to indicate the number and the gender of the noun that it's describing. So watch out for that. But this is perdu, nouveau, vécu, courir, sublime, cuire, paru, parc. This is an example of the Q and the U working together. We don't have parcu because that's not the function of the U. It is not that type of party. All right. And then we have séduit, musette. Now, let us go through together Gabriel Fauré's Après un rêve. This is one of the more famous French melody, so learning this and speaking it with a knowledge of the text of what the words mean, which you will discover once you translate it, will be very helpful in creating the proper inflection. Let's begin. Dans un sommeil que charmait ton image, je rêvais le bonheur, ardent mirage. Tes yeux étaient plus doux, ta voix pure et sonore. Tu rayonnais comme un ciel éclairé par l'aurore. Tu m'appelais et je quittais la terre pour m'enfuir avec toi vers la lumière. Les cieux pour nous entr'ouvraient leurs nues. Splendeurs inconnues, lueurs divines entrevues. Hélas, hélas, triste réveil des songes. Je t'appelle aux nuits, romps-moi tes mensonges. Au revoir.